Good afternoon, everyone. This is Don Bautista, the Executive Director of AC Friends of Court, or Amici Curiae Friends of Court. We assist British Columbians complete their legal forms, regardless of their means. During this time of the pandemic, it's become very apparent when we assist our clients how palpable their level of stress is. And part of this is, we would say, the inability to attend in court in person, something that they're used to. And in some cases, they're feeling about inadequacies with respect to completing their legal forms. And that is why today we invited Sarah Sutherland, the Director of Programs for Partnerships at CanLII. What we hope to be able to do today, as in the previous interviews, is to allow for you, the public, to hear the leaders of our legal organizations, because they're often unseen and unheard. The series allows them to speak unfiltered. And what we're hoping to do today is three things: to inform you of their planning and thinking behind their planning. Secondly, to tell you how they are working to even the playing field, in this case, access to information. And third, to share their reflections of what they have learned that might be important to continue after the pandemic. So Sarah Sutherland, the Director of Programs and Partnerships with CanLII, is our guest today. She has agreed to share with the public on what CanLII is doing to help them, as well as to assure the people that even if they come without a lawyer before courts and tribunals, their services at CanLII is something that might be useful to you. So before I ask Sarah some of the questions, I'd like to invite her to say a few words to you. Sarah?
Well, thank you for inviting me to speak with you today. I'm very happy to be speaking to British Columbians. I am a British Columbian myself, and so I'm happy to get to have this opportunity. At CanLII, having our site open to the public as well as the legal community is something that's very important to us. So I welcome this chance to speak to you all today.
Thank you. I am, of course, mindful that by next year, 2022, CanLII is turning 20. Can you imagine that? So next year is going to be big, but I suppose there were a lot of big projects that CanLII released during the pandemic, and bravo to you. So let me ask you my first question, Sarah. Why do you think access to information increases access to justice?
I think that many people, they just don't know what the rights and obligations are under the law. And so maybe they know some things, but not other things. And just having a place where they can look and get good quality information that they can trust and that they can act upon or not act upon, and really understand what they need to do is a very valuable thing. And so I think that for many people, just knowing, just having that information, just knowing what their rights are, what the law is, will help a lot of people resolve their problems right there.
And, you know, I can think of the Guide to Civil Litigation as one example. Disclaimer, it involves AC Friends of Court, but I had to bring it up early because that, to me, in my mind, is access to good legal information. And I wanted to thank you for making it happen. I'm sure there was a lot of work behind it, because producing a piece like that does not come easy. And we did this during the height of the pandemic last summer. It's almost like, you know, an impossible mission, but there you go. Now, to my second question. How is access to information insufficient as a sole answer to access to justice?
Well, access to information is limited. It won't tell you everything you need to do. It won't always give you advice on how to respond. And sometimes you may not know how a particular issue would fit in with the overall structure of the law. And so you may not know what area of the law it is. You may have a problem that covers multiple areas of the law. So you may have a single person may, for example, have a family law problem and a tenancy law problem and a child support problem all at the same time. And in order to navigate all these things, it's complex. And just reading something on your own is often not enough for people in these complicated situations to know how to solve their problems and how to act going forward. And so in those cases, I think it's really important that there be systems that allow these people to have human beings to help them, because that's how we move so many things forward when we don't know how to do them. And so we need people, and then we also need computer applications like easily fillable court forms. So there are court forms on CanLII. They're part of different documents on CanLII. But if you just go to CanLII and try to pull the court forms from there, they aren't in a format that's easy to use. And so that's not as helpful. So having access to the systems that allow you to fill in the information that you need, like court forms, and also have people to help you to know how to do it, is a very important element of access to justice.
And of course, I can only think of the many trusted intermediaries, not just from our own courthouse library staff, but to librarians as a whole, mm-hmm. who refer their patrons to CanLII. And yet there is sort of that limitation in terms of trying to narrow the search, for example, because there's only so many things that librarians can do, mm-hmm. or are allowed to do. And so the pivot to public legal education publishing projects that CanLII has is certainly an important initiative because it helps bridge some of the gaps, wouldn't you say?
That's our goal. So there's many organizations in British Columbia, like People's Law School and Justice Education Society, that do excellent information at a particular level. CanLII is focused more at a professional user base. We think it's important that it be open to everyone, but it really has that advanced user in mind. Sorry, we're having a car alarm outside my window. Is that bothering your audio here? Okay. Sorry. So there's Justice Education Society, People's Law School, many organizations that provide good information. CanLII, we provide information that's more advanced, more focused on professionals. But what we want to do is try to bridge that gap a little between the two. And so by having more commentary, more content on CanLII that tells you about what the law means and not just what the law is we think important to help people bridge that gap between information that other organizations provide and what's on CanLII now.
Thank you. Now, CanLII by design is a pretty small crew.
Yes.
How you manage to leverage the great minds to sort of work your magic has been put to test during the pandemic in terms of how you carry out your responsibilities to the public. Can you share with us some lessons you've learned?
Well, for us, it's a little bit different than for other organizations because CanLII was always set up to be entirely online. Everyone who works at CanLII already is set up to work remotely. So in some ways, there was fewer changes for us. It's been complicated to deal with authors and people like that. Of course, everybody has personal issues throughout this year, which they've had to deal with. But I think that for us, the things we've learned have mostly been looking out rather than looking in. And so what we found is there are a lot of things that people were going to physical locations for that didn't need to be. So remote court points, physical libraries in many cases, all these places where you were required to go physically are no longer perhaps as required if we have good remote access. But it also shows the gaps where the people who really need those to access things physically, it really shows where those requirements still continue to be.
Thank you. Now, just a few minutes ago, you mentioned trying to bridge the gap between sort of the what you call the sophisticated users and your average user who doesn't really use CanLII all that often. Mm-hmm. I guess I'm assuming the first group, they happen to be members of the profession, and then the second group is the public because they need that information for their own particular use. Now, I wanted to just focus on the public users and ask you if there are things that you're doing or will be doing to be more responsive to their needs.
Well, one of the things that we do is we have anonymized data about what people are searching on the site, how people are behaving, and we look at what's happening and how people are actually using it and try to find gaps where we can. So, for example, about a year ago, I was looking at the search results and people were running searches on bankruptcies. And then a lot of them were leaving the site without going anywhere else. They would just run the search and look at it and then leave. So to me, that shows that people are not finding what they want on that subject area. So what we did then is we actively went and looked for authors who contribute information on bankruptcy so that we could fill that gap so that people would be able to find something that would help answer their questions when they were looking for it.
Thank you. Now let me move on to technology itself because, pre-COVID, we've always said technology should not be a hurdle. It's magnified itself now. So I have a couple of questions. The first is, how does your system support people who cannot use a computer? Are there other ways to access legal information? And I am mindful that public libraries are slowly beginning to expand their hours, but yet the need for legal information is asynchronous. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts?
This is certainly something that we think about and talk about. We CanLII was set up as a website. It has always been a website, and that is the main thing that we do. We honestly, we aren't well set up to help people who can't use a computer. Uh, so over time, what we rely on is a legal information infrastructure that will allow other organizations to also fill that gap. That at CanLII, we can't do everything, we know that.
Mm-hmm.
And so we try to leave room for other organizations, and to also try to support those other organizations' needs as they are moving forward as well.
Okay. And then, of course, my second question deals with, you publish cases as they come out. And invariably, some parties have this concern about their privacy being at risk because a lot of details are included in these reasons for judgments, for example. So what's your take on that?
Well, one of the things that we try to do is there are technological ways that you can basically ask search engines not to list particular pages in search results.
Mhm.
And so we use these methods to try to block Google and other search engines from linking to case law pages on CanLII, with the exception of Supreme Court of Canada decisions. And that's the court decides that the Supreme Court of Canada decisions are public, or public in that way, rather. So we try to keep it obscure so that if people have a legitimate reason to access court decisions, they will be able to find them. But that if you're just casually looking up somebody or searching a name, that will not be a result that should come up for them. So that's the balance that we have in terms of actually including information in the cases. It is the choice of the courts and the tribunals what information is included in the decisions. And so we do not control that. We just publish what the courts and tribunals make available to us.
Thank you. I mean, I realize, again, going back to the makeup of the crew of CanLII, I appreciate that you rely on technology to, do your work. And so that's important. But I cannot help but think that for the public, there are cases, because they are so important to them, so personal. What would you say to them because they may not be able to find answers to their questions on CanLII? Are there alternatives? Are there resources available to them? Because CanLII can't be the one to provide them with what they're looking for.
You've mentioned courthouse libraries of BC a few times, and also public libraries. I would say that those organizations are well positioned to help direct people. The public legal education organizations, they certainly do excellent work to make information available which people can move forward with, and is often a bit more actionable. So you can look at it, and if you need to do something in particular, they give better information than we do about how to proceed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
And so that's what I would say, is that there's in British Columbia, we're very lucky. We have an excellent public legal information and nonprofit infrastructure. And so really, I think that other organizations are better situated to help than we are in some of these instances.
Thank you. My last question goes to the very powerful group of insiders we call lawyers. And I don't know if it makes any difference, but from your inception, a significant portion of your budgets have been funded by the Federation of Law Societies, different law societies. So through that and bar associations, they can tell you what's on their minds, because there's ways to do that. So the flip side to that, of course, is the public. They don't have bar associations. But if they wanted to write CanLII and say, hey, Sarah, we think we need, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you create a video of how we should, do our searches? How do they make it known to you?
We have two main ways. One of them is that a bit more than a year ago, we launched a small survey button on our main website. And so every so often it will physically pop up and ask if you have feedback for us. But it's always there. So in the bottom right hand, there's a small survey button, and if you click on it, it will pop up, and it will give you an option to rate your experience on the CanLII website out of 5 stars, and also there's this text box so that you can tell us what you'd like to say. And we certainly pay attention to that. And when we look at developing the site further and developing our planning, that's certainly something that we do. Another thing that we have is we have a feedback form that's linked from the bottom of our main page, and it sends an email to staff who review these messages. And I think it's the way it's set up. It doesn't always feel very satisfying, like you're sending a message to a real person, but we really do pay attention to them, and we read them all, and we make sure that if there's something that needs addressing, that we do our best to be responsive in that way.
I know for a fact there are many real people in CanLII. And by the time we publish this video, it is by no means proof that there's actually people, good friends. And maybe the proof will be with the number of viewers that will watch this video, Sarah, don't you think?
Hopefully.
So my last question, can you sort of shed some light on content creation? It's something that's near and dear to my heart. What are we going to expect in the months, in the years to come? Where is this going?
This is something that we are certainly planning towards. It's very exciting for us. Having more commentary on CanLII is something that's it's a big project. So we launched law reviews on CanLII in March of 2018. And we've been adding more regularly ever since. And so we've almost hit 15,000 pieces of commentary on CanLII. And that's not counting CanLII Connects pieces. And so the case commentary on CanLII Connects, if we put that together, we have over 70,000 pieces of commentary on CanLII. Now, we have put out a call for book proposals some months ago. So we have some authors who are working on books that will be published on CanLII into the future. We have been looking at ways of directing content creation, in particular strategic ways. So one of the things that is very upstream, it's going to be a while, but we're working on is, we know that one of the subject areas that's most commonly searched for on CanLII is criminal law. And we don't have a good resource right now that would allow us to give that information as we need to. So we're looking at how we can have a creative way of solving that problem and filling that gap. So it will be coming.
That is certainly good news. Sarah, I have run out of questions to ask you, but I would like to give you the next few minutes to just wrap up anything you want to say to our viewers today, as far as what CanLII is doing to improve access to justice.
I think that we've said most of what I would say. It is important to us getting the messages from people and trying to look at the way that people behave and try to make that work better is something that we spend all our time on. It's very important to us, and so it's difficult. It's difficult to give information in a way that works for everyone. And so we really try to fill the gaps as we can.
Well, on that note, my friend, thank you very much for gracing Dear British Columbians. And I look forward to posting it. And of course, AC looks forward to continuing to collaborate with CanLII. So until the next time, Sarah, take care.
Bye, Dom.
Bye-bye.